Alrighty, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank everyone for coming out. We have a great turnout today of friends from across the state of Michigan that are here. You are going to hear from a few of the people that are up here with me today, but I want to make sure to start with some quick introductions. I know we have representatives from the Sierra Club here. I know that we have representatives from Clean Water Action as well as the League of Conservation Voters. And did I miss anybody that's not speaking yet? I know, so a few people are speaking too. But I want to thank everyone for coming here today. We have representatives from two other groups that are going to be addressing you a little bit later. But I want to thank you all for being here today for this very important issue and this package of 3 bills that's getting introduced to protect our groundwater in the state of Michigan. So for too long, the state of Michigan has not protected, unfortunately, one of our most valuable resources, our groundwater. And a lot of people don't think of groundwater in the way that I think they should, right? When we think of our water in the state of Michigan, we think of our lakes. We think of the Great Lakes. We think of our surface water. We think of our rivers. But the reality is it's the same H2O that's under the ground as the water that's in our lakes. And so if we are not taking care of that groundwater, then we are not taking care of our surface water. And obviously there's contamination all across our state, but there's also been reckless approvals of groundwater withdrawals for companies like Nestle that have been taking groundwater from our state and shipping it to other places. And we think that is just absolutely unacceptable. And so this package of bills really hones in and tries to address that issue in a very granular way to say, not only is groundwater essential to the future of the state of Michigan, but we need to protect it. We need to protect it, and we need to put it in the public trust. And so that's exactly what my bill and this 3-bill package does, is it subjects groundwater to the public trust doctrine. Really what that will do is not only will it make a strong statement of protections for the groundwater in the state of Michigan, but it will also allow citizens of the state of Michigan to bring forward when they have complaints over how our groundwater is being used, to bring forward legal action around that so that we have more common protections over that groundwater so that we can make sure to protect our water in the state of Michigan for many generations to come. So to speak on her bill, my colleague Rep. Pohutsky, I'm going to have you come on up and talk about your piece of legislation in the package.
Thank you, Rep. Rabhi. So as Representative Rabhi said, I am State Representative Laurie Pohutsky, and I proudly represent the residents of Livonia, a city that struggled for the last several years from the threats posed by groundwater contamination that continues to put the health and safety of our families at risk. And as difficult as it's been for us to cope with the harsh reality of the situation in our city, we remember that we are just one of dozens of communities across this state that have had to face questions that nobody should have to ask. Like, is my family safe from groundwater contamination? Or is my water safe? So despite the tremendous pride that we take in being the Great Lakes state, we've continued to allow greedy corporations and other bad actors to steal our fresh water and then sell it back to us at extortionate rates. And then they expect us to thank them for that privilege. So my colleagues and I are here today to say that enough is enough. My bill in this important package would empower the Michigan Department of Natural Resources to manage water, both surface and groundwater, in the areas under its supervision. For too long, we prevented the DNR from becoming an important partner in the fight to preserve access to fresh water by restricting its efforts to the conservation of waterfowl and fisheries. And that work is critically important, but I cannot understand why the very department entrusted to manage the state's natural resources would be blocked from managing Michigan's most precious resource of all, our water. And I don't mean precious because of its monetary value. Our water is not a commodity. Michigan's wealth of fresh water is central to our culture. It's part of who we are as Michiganders. It's vital to our economy and our very survival. The bills we're introducing today are needed to ensure that the people of Michigan are afforded exactly what they should expect from the Great Lakes state: access to clean water for generations to come. And now I'm going to hand it over to Representative Hood.
Thank you, Rep. Pohutsky and Rep. Rabhi. I'm State Representative Rachel Hood, and I represent the families of the City of Grand Rapids in Kent County. Like most Michiganders, I have a lifelong appreciation of the unique experience and opportunities we're able to enjoy as a result of our freshwater resources. Experience you can't find anywhere else in the world. I think immediately about the incredibly diverse agricultural resources that are on our fruit ridge. I think about our beaches in West Michigan, our rivers, which are an important asset for recreation. These are experiences we have the responsibility to preserve for future generations. And this is why I've spent much of my professional career fighting to protect our Great Lakes, as well as thousands of inland lakes and rivers in the state of Michigan, through innovative water management strategies and watershed education programs, and more. Policy, first of all. Policy change is critical. And if that work has taught me anything, it's that the longer you spend learning about Michigan's freshwater systems, the more you come to realize how deeply connected we are to water, and water is to us and our economy and our well-being in the state. And a threat to Michigan's water anywhere is a threat to water everywhere across the world. We have this precious resource. It's a globally unique resource. And in this day and age when climate change is front and center in our lives, and issues of extensive pollution in our communities are rapidly being identified, we understand that this is protecting our groundwater is of grave concern, not just to our state, but to the nation and the world. And yet we have allowed corporations to drain our freshwater lakes and rivers and groundwater basins for their own profit for years, stealing unfathomable amounts of water from our region each and every day. And when I say steal, I mean that literally, because once our water is bottled up and shipped out across the country in a container of 5.7 gallons or less, it is gone from this watershed forever. That is not a new realization. We know that is exactly what is happening. And in fact, the legally binding Great Lakes Compact already prohibits most water diversions outside of the Great Lakes watershed because of the catastrophic effects removing it from the system would have on our economy, our ecology, and the health of the entire region. However, tucked away in this law was an important loophole that allowed unlimited amounts of water to be removed from the Great Lakes Basin so long as it is packaged in small containers. And we hope to address that and change that with my particular contribution to this bill package. This is what has allowed corporations like Nestle to buy up our water for pennies, only to be shipped around the globe for outrageous profits, and it's time for that to end. My bill in this package would close that loophole to ensure that our water stays where it belongs, right here in the Great Lakes watershed. We should not be allowing corporations to profit off permanently removing massive quantities of water that belongs to all of us. If we want future generations to enjoy the same experiences and opportunities that we have been lucky enough to be granted, we need to take powerful and purposeful action now, before it's too late. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you. And Andrea Pierce from the Anishinaabe Caucus will be following me. Thank you, Andrea, for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. Bonjour. What's no day koi indigenous? Wakanaka sing adawa no dojaba, makwa no dodam. I'm just letting my people know that I'm here. I'm Andrea Pierce. I'm the chair of the newly formed Anishinaabe Caucus. I found out that we did not have a caucus, the Anishinaabe people of this state, and now we have one, and we're working on great and wonderful things and being invited to speak at events regarding our water. We started the caucus mostly was to protect the water and work towards legislation to make it harder for companies like Nestle to steal our water. And it is a theft, no way about it. It's stealing from our people, our culture, our traditions. It's stealing from our next 7 generations. And we always have to think of forward, not just how things affect us, how it's going to affect our grandchildren's grandchildren. And that's how the Anishinaabe that's how I was taught by the Anishinaabe people to think about everything that I'm doing. How is this going to affect the future generations? And I think this package of bills is saying that we will protect the waters, we will protect our state, and that we're not going to be sitting down. We're going to be standing up and actively working towards legislation to make things better for our grandchildren's grandchildren. So, thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. And we have as well Elaine from WEMIAC, which I believe is the West Michigan Environmental Action Council.
Correct.
All right, come on up.
Thank you. I'm Elaine Isley. I am the Director of Water Programs at the West Michigan Environmental Action Council, sometimes known as WEMIAC. For 50 years, we have worked to protect our surface waters from direct and indirect polluted contributions, but we have not afforded the same levels of protection to our groundwater. We have been working directly with residents in North Kent County who are finding PFAS and arsenic and hexavalent chromium in their waters due to dumping and corporate negligence in allowing our groundwater to be polluted. These residents don't have places to dispose of their pool water. They don't have places to dispose of their well water. When they clean out their septic systems, nobody will take that polluted water from them. So we need protection of our groundwater. We need to make sure that we have the same levels for everybody so that we can have clean and safe surface water and drinking water. I also want to comment that everything we do on the land does affect our waterways. And so as we're looking at developing in places like Ottawa County, we're seeing a depletion of our groundwater resources. And it's time for us to really be paying more attention. We're all connected to the Great Lakes. Every one of our lakes and streams in this state drains into a Great Lake. And protecting the water in the Great Lakes Basin and trying to keep it for our residents here is extremely important. And so we're really, really proud to help promote these bills and to support this legislation. So thank you very much. There you go.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Elaine. And again, thank you to all the speakers today. As we've heard over and over again, water is at the pinnacle of who we are as a state of Michigan. And as we move forward into the future, we need to make sure that we are protecting our groundwater in the state of Michigan, not just from the threat of corporate polluters, which is something that has impacted many of our districts, including my own, with the 1,4-dioxane plume that is creeping under our groundwater in the city of Ann Arbor and making it so that the city has had to actually shut down many of its own wells where we get our drinking water from. But it also will protect us from the theft of our water, because as different parts of our country unfortunately start to run out of water, there is going to be pressure on the Great Lakes region to take that water from our Great Lakes Basin and move it all over the country. And they can do that now. Unfortunately, we want to close that loophole. We want to stop the theft of our water. And when we're talking about the public trust, there was recently a decision that I think helped to bolster what we're talking about today, when a court said that actually bottling water is not a public necessity, right? And that's what we're talking about here. When we're talking about the public trust, when we're talking about what is in the public benefit, right, for the management of our groundwater, the court the other day, I think it was just a couple days ago, clearly said that bottling water is not something that would fall under this. But I want to emphasize that this is not going to necessarily penalize folks that are using well water at their homes. Obviously, drinking water, taking showers, those are important things to do, and they're within the realm of what is important for the public. So there's a misconception sometimes that people think that this is going to be, controlling how an individual uses groundwater. People that have their wells, that are drinking their water, that are taking showers and cleaning their dishes, this shouldn't have a major impact on them. This is really trying to go after the theft of our groundwater in the state of Michigan and the wholesale polluting and writing off of our groundwater resources across our state.